welcome to Great British Ghosts. Today I've come to Essex, and later on I'm going to be visiting something completely different, a haunted nuclear bunker. But first of all, I'm in Colchester, which claims to be the oldest town in Britain, and I'm going to find out about the ghosts of one of the oldest inns in the area, the Red Lion Hotel. The Red Lion Hotel dates back to the 15th century and is steeped in history. The main reception room, with its wooden beam ceiling, was used by Oliver Cromwell for his first People's Parliament. It's said to be haunted by more than 3 different ghosts, including a former chambermaid, Alice Catherine Miller, who was murdered here back in 1638. To make this place even more intriguing, in recent years, paranormal investigators have taken actual photos of what they claim are the spirits that haunt the hotel. Local historian Derek Ray has been leading people around Colchester's haunted hotspots, including the Red Lion, for over a decade. So, Derek, I guess the fact that Colchester has had such an incredibly long history that we know of, that's why there are so many ghosts here.
Well, Michaela, you'd be absolutely right to think that. We've got nearly 2,000 years of history in this town. It's the oldest recorded town in the country. We have over there the oldest Christian church in the country, the oldest Christian graveyard in the country. We've had Vikings here, not just the Romans, but Vikings, 17th century highwaymen. We've got ghosts everywhere around here. It's one of the most haunted places, I would say, in the entire country. This is the Red Lion Hotel. This is one of the ancient inns of Colchester. For over 500 years now, this has been a hotel in Colchester. And Michaela, with the thought of blood on our minds, may I introduce you to the ghost that haunts the Red Lion Hotel in Colchester.
And who was the ghost?
Well, her name was Alice Catherine Miller. She was a young chambermaid here. And it's in the records that she was young and fresh-faced. By young, they would mean somebody 15 or younger. By fresh-faced, they would mean somebody who hadn't been attacked awfully by smallpox. Everybody was disfigured. But she was most likely a dairymaid. Her face was clean and fresh. This was very desirable in 1638. And there was one man of that time. He came here and he saw that young girl. He was a justice of the peace, he was a magistrate, he was a powerful, influential man in the town, and he lusted after that young girl. This man offered her freedom, a chance to break away from the drudgery, a chance at a rich life, and she fell for that liar. A few months later, she came back to him with endearment, affection, and love. This time she was mostly, I would imagine, that she was pregnant. Because this time it was no longer here, wench. This time it was be gone, wench. He beat her and he beat her. He told her to go away. He laughed in her face. You're just a chambermaid. The idea of me marrying you. Be gone. Until finally, in this room above, in 1638, he beat Alice Catherine Miller until he was holding in his arms her poor, pitiful dead body. And then in some attempt to make it look like suicide, a pathetic attempt, he prized open that window and threw her body out for it to fall just here. And the lifeblood of Alice Catherine Miller seeped away between the old paving stones in this courtyard into the even more ancient cellars beneath. And since that time, she has been, in a very real sense, part of the very fabric of this building.
David Mayhew has spent years investigating the hauntings at the hotel and is well acquainted with Alice.
She's very prominent in here and she makes appearances on very many occasions. It's not unheard of for objects to move moving around when people are staying here or even in the restaurant eating. She'll come up, she'll touch you. We've had people here that have been spoken to by Alice. She'll come up and tell you when there's somebody downstairs. She'll walk around, she'll make appearances, so she's very prominent in the actual place.
But it's not just the ghost hunters who've seen things. The staff too have had their own unexplained experiences.
One of the most amazing experiences we've had here is the assistant manager. She was asleep in one of the rooms, and it was about 2, 3 in the morning. She woke up and there was a rocking chair at the end of the bed, and she just saw a white sort of, I wouldn't say a figure, just the chair was rocking and there was a sort of white presence there, and then it soon disappeared and the chair just kept rocking.
Can you tell me what she looks like?
We don't really know what she looks like. She never really materialises that much that you can actually distinguish any facial features or any bodily features. You'll see her more as a blur or as a figure.
I've been doing the ghost tours of Colchester for about 13 years, but just when I started, I was phoned up by a man who worked here in the 1950s. He was then aged only about 15 years old, and he worked here as a bootblack, and he told me the story of carrying a tray of teapots and teacups and saucers, and he opened up this doorway here, and there on the other side, looking at him straight in the eye, was Alice Catherine Miller. The tray went up in the air, the teapots and the teacups smashed all around here.
When you've done your investigations, you've managed to take some photographs. Can you tell me about the photographs?
Yeah, the photographs that we've actually taken in the Red Line, we've had in various different rooms. We've had a monk that's appeared in one of the photographs in one of the function rooms. We've had several figures of a lady and a child, which we actually think is Alice. And upstairs in one of the bedrooms we have caught a big black shape going across the room as well. This is where we actually think that Alice lived, which is right above your heads here. It's not a huge space, it's very dark, very creepy, very small.
So basically she was in the attic, and although that is really horrible for us with our standards, that was fairly normal.
It was probably a paradise for her at that time, at that stage. I mean, if you come through to the actual restaurant here, and you can see here the height of the hall, and it would have gone across, there would have been another floor that we think went across the top. As you can see, there's part of a doorway at the top there. It's very small, but again, you go back to those ages and people were very small anyway, so the doorways were never very big. So that was there. It's since been blocked off and it's structurally unsafe now. But Alice is still around in here. We have had lots of occurrences in here. We have had lots of guests that have sat down to eat to find things moving. We've had the night watchman who's come from the side, walked through here doing his normal walk. He's gone down to the end, he's come back, and as he's come back in, all of the cushions off the sofas have been stacked one on top of each other. So there's a lot of things that happen in here, and Alice is responsible for those.
And although she's been dead for nearly 200 years, young Alice is still appearing to the guests and the staff today.
Just underneath Alice's bedroom, just a few weeks ago, there was a young mother and a young boy. The little boy was about 5 years older, about 5 years old, and he was playing noisily with his toy cars. And suddenly, he went quiet. Now, let me tell you, with 5-year-old boys, when they go quiet, you're worried. She turned to him, she said, "What's the matter with you?" And he turned to her with all the innocence, with all the sincerity of youth. He turned to her and he said, "The Grey Lady asked me to be quiet." The Grey Lady is one of Alice's nicknames.
We've had a customer, they've stayed with their little boy, and at reception he cried every time he walked out the reception door, so she had put a hood over his head, and then they went downstairs, and then he was fine. And then she woke up in the middle of the night to him laughing. So she said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm playing peebo with the lady." So she flicked the light on and went to sleep with the light on.
The main manifestation happened, well, quite a few months ago now. The then assistant manager of this hotel was staying overnight. And one of the perks of the job, he just decided to book himself into the best room in the hotel. And that is one of the rooms that Alice likes to frequent. And his exact words to me about what happened were these. "I awoke," he said. "I awoke at about 3 in the morning. I didn't know what was happening to me. I was shaking like a leaf. I couldn't stop myself shaking. I sat up in the bed. I didn't know what was going on. And I saw in that room, there's a rocking chair. And as I looked at it, I saw that rocking chair begin to rock to and fro. And then it was as if tendrils in the air moved into the chair. And so slowly, forming in that chair, was a figure. And then there she was, Alice Catherine Miller, sitting in that chair, 1 foot on the floor, gently rocking herself back and forth. I looked at her, she looked at me, he said, and then Alice Catherine Miller spoke to him. Her exact words were simple. She said to him, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" Seeing him shaking in the bed. And he said, "Yes, I am all right." And she nodded her head, and then the figure slowly, ever so slowly, disappeared, leaving the rocking chair still rocking on its own.
There are certain rooms in the Red Lion I won't even go into alone. One being the function room. I've walked in there before, had the door slammed behind me, and I felt rather scared, let's say, going in there. There is an electrical atmosphere about. A lot of people do come in. They'll sit down, they'll actually complain with headaches and having colds, which are classic signs of actually spirits drawing energy from you. There are a lot of occurrences when you walk around to the Red Lion, you'll get a chill up your back. It's just like somebody standing there right next to you, and you will feel it. Here, we have one of the haunted rooms. Now, lovely old room.
Yeah.
There's been a lot happening here that I've experienced and other people have experienced. One of them being with this bed.
Yeah.
We've had somebody that's been on the bed during an investigation. I've actually been down the side here, and while she's been there, we've had a figure actually pull her feet and try to pull her off the bed. We've had another instance where one of the maids was in here, was literally cleaning, got pushed onto the bed, and the bed was shaking like so. And it would take a lot of force to shake this bed. It is very, very strong. I think it's so haunted because of the actual history of the place. The amount that has taken place here over the years with people dying, people being killed. Also suicides have been known to be taking place in the area as well.
Well, guess where I'm sleeping? Room 7, the most haunted room in the Red Lion. And I'm telling you, if I wake up with a bed shaking, somebody grabbing my ankle, or Alice wandering about the room, I'm going to freak out. It's a good job I'm a heavy sleeper. Night-night.
I've come to Kelvedon Hatch in Essex, and behind me is what looks like a very ordinary, slightly run-down farm building. And until 20 years ago, this house hid a big government secret. Underneath it is a nuclear bunker, which has been described as a concrete coffin for 600 living people. And that sounds like a great place to look for ghosts.
Kelvedon Hatch Bunker is a relic of the Cold War. It was built in 1952 to act as an underground home for the British government in the event of a nuclear attack, and was still in use, ready to house hundreds of people at a moment's notice, right up to 1992. All you can see above ground is the guardhouse, which was built to look like a local farmhouse from the air. But closer inspection reveals steel shutters, bomb-proof doors, and 18-inch concrete walls. The bunker is hidden more than 100 feet underground and feels as if time has stood still inside for decades. It's an eerie place, and not surprisingly, its abandoned dormitories, control rooms and tunnels have become something of a magnet for paranormal activity. Its location was kept totally secret until it was decommissioned in 1992, when it was sold to a local farmer.
In its first life, it was built for about 600 people. But as time moved on and technology moved on, and indeed they changed it from being under the Air Ministry to being a regional government bunker, they reduced that to about 450. They were going to be down here for a minimum of 3 months, so the bunker has enough water and electricity and sewage works to be able to sustain that number of people for the 3 months.
How would it have worked? How would they know to come here?
Way before we read in the newspaper that there's going to be a crisis, there is that build-up of tension that the government knows about, and they would start supplying this with the food and the essentials that was required. People had already been designated as to who they were coming down here, and they would have been put on alert, and then they'd have come down in the period of tension to man the bunker and await, hopefully not await, the dreadful moment.
Chris Arnold is a paranormal investigator who's carried out a number of vigils in the bunker at night. He agreed to show me the areas where ghosts have been seen.
So how many paranormal investigations have happened here at the bunker?
Well, since it's become known as a haunted venue in the past few years, there is literally an investigation every weekend.
Every week?
Yeah, so it's heavily investigated. So we're in the main entrance tunnel now. There have been a few experiences in here. One experience I was actually present for, we had a group in here. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. We were in the darkness, but we had torches. And all of a sudden, 2 people at the end of the tunnel just screamed and started running towards us. Now, they said that they'd heard footsteps behind them. I turned to look and had seen a dark shadow, kind of figure-shaped, walking quite quickly towards them. They didn't hang around to kind of see if it had any features or anything. They basically legged it. But other people in that corridor have heard footsteps when there's been absolutely no one there. And one of the strangest stories here is of people seeing a woman in military uniform actually telling people to get out, telling them to stop, that they shouldn't be there. But she looks completely solid, just like you or I. This place is unusual. It does give me personally, and I'm sure with other people, it gives me a kind of creepy sensation. It's just a very unusual atmosphere, knowing that you're underground, just the artificial nature of the whole building and the knowledge of what it was intended for does give you an uncomfortable feeling.
Chris, what I find interesting is no one's actually lived here, so it's quite fascinating that people are seeing ghosts.
Well, people did actually live here for up to 2 weeks at a time when they were doing drills for, in the event of an actual nuclear war. But we do know of one death that happened on the site. When it was being built, the walls are kind of 10 feet thick, so they were pouring concrete into them night and day. They'd have a night shift and then a day shift. And the story goes that the morning shift came on and the foreman's hat was floating in a river of concrete and he was never seen again. So the assumption is that he was drowned and is still buried in the wall somewhere.
That's quite grisly. So obviously that could be one of the ghosts that's seen here.
Could be one of the ghosts. We've heard no reports of anyone actually seeing a foreman, but he could be responsible for some of the activity, certainly. I do believe that there is something going on that we don't yet understand. Too many people have had experiences. You can't really say that they are all deranged or making it up. Statistically, that isn't possible. So some people are having genuine paranormal experiences. The fact that it's paranormal does not necessarily mean that it's ghostly or it's a spirit person. It could just be some phenomena that science doesn't yet understand, that we haven't yet been able to explain. OK, so this is the dormitory that forms part of the sick bay. The sick bay is particularly haunted, we believe. People have seen dark shadows flitting about. It's also supposedly haunted by a demonic entity. A lot of mediums have picked up on this demonic kind of negative energy, which I don't really see myself. I don't believe in that. But the other thing is that people have seen a freakishly tall elderly lady, which is a particularly bizarre story.
Do you think that might date back to what was here before?
It could be. It could go back further than the bunker itself. I think the bunker is a fascinating venue. Normally your typical haunted building would be a castle or an old coaching inn, so this place is really unusual. The fact that it's allegedly haunted is very curious. It makes you wonder, you know, who is haunting it and why they're still here.
So do you think this place is haunted?
I'm a total disbeliever, I'm afraid. We have lots and lots of paranormal groups down here. Almost all of them claim to find or see something. And I think, subscribe to the view that if you're not receptive, then of course you'll never see them. And I'm definitely not receptive.
Well, I've found Kelvedon Hatch Secret Bunker absolutely fascinating, especially as I didn't even know these sort of places existed. Now, whether it's haunted or not is one thing, but what I find really haunting about it is not so much what you'd find inside, but what you would find outside after a nuclear attack. Now, that thought really is scary. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Next Friday, the London pub with more than alcoholic spirits. Great British Ghosts is back at 9. Tonight, it's into the war zone to decide the fate of Europe in the wake of World War II. Laurence Olivier narrates The World at War next.